Do you want to get out of debt, but you really don't know where to start? Or maybe you realize that you need a budget. At the very least, you need to know what you spend every month, so you know what you have to work with, so you can create a plan so you can get rid of your debt. I'm going to show you, for those of you that just hate budgeting and hate the word budgeting, which I didn't realize some people did until I was working with a friend and we had to use one of these methods to help get them started. Why would you listen to anything I have to say? Well, I got out of over $200,000 of debt myself using many of the methods that I teach on my channel. I also have a business, multiple businesses, and one of them I spend over $100,000 a month. I actually use credit cards. They allow me to do that. And I receive all sorts of cash back points, miles, and how to maximize the cards. So subscribe if you get a chance. Always appreciate a like, but let's get started with some budgeting hacks. Or better yet, let's just avoid budgeting. But first, we're going to talk about three things here. It's going to be quick, to the point. What is a budget in general? And why do you even have it? What does it do? Well, a budget is just listing out the maximum amount that you want to spend on a monthly basis. And then you break it down into what your spending categories are. So for example, your home, rent, or mortgage is a certain amount of money. Your utilities are a certain amount of money. Now they can vary. Typically your home's a fixed payment. Utilities can vary. Your car might have a payment. That's going to be fixed. Then you have things like food, entertainment. I just threw in here like a gym membership, maybe some gifts. But food can be, let's just say, variable. Entertainment can be variable. Gifts can be variable. What do I mean? Well, you might spend at the grocery store $800 a month on groceries for your food. You also might go out to restaurants. Well, if you want to cut back on spending, you look at it and you say, well, maybe we don't go to restaurants, or maybe we don't do as many entertainment things, whatever it may be. What does this do for you? It essentially just gives you the budget, your top limit of spending. You add it all up and you say, okay, that's whatever, $4,000 a month. We don't want to spend more than that. That's our budget. A lot of people don't even want to get started on this. And what's the most important thing? Well, you want to make sure that your budget is less than your income. If you are spending $4,000, but you're only making $3,500 or $3,000, you will never get out of debt because you're always packing on more debt every month. So a lot of people don't even want to start with the budget itself because they look at it and they say, well, I don't know how much I should put for food. I don't know how much I should put for entertainment. This is confusing. I don't know. How can I just avoid this? Here's how you can avoid it. 2, what I would call hacks. They're more to determine what you're spending very quickly so you can start implementing a plan. The first thing, you can simply, let's say from the 1st to the 30th every month, you can literally write down everything you spend. You can say, okay, I bought X on this date and it cost me $50. And then you write down everything until you get to the end of the month. And now you have a list of everything you spent. You can then put it into categories or just total it up. Another way, which I think is somewhat easier, and I used this with a friend, and that is, I said, okay, how do you spend every month? Do you use cash? No. I use my debit card. Takes money out of my checking account. We're like, okay, you got a debit card. What else you do? Well, I use this one credit card. Okay, you got a credit card. Okay, that's it. They just happen to have these 2 ways of spending during the course of the month. So, what do? You log into your bank, and you can download the transactions for that month. The 1st through the 30th, let's just say it's January. Then you go to the credit card and you download your transactions for the 1st and the 30th. Typically, it'll just come down, if you're familiar with what's called a CSV file. It'll download it, double-click it. It'll ask how you want to open it. You can open it with Excel. You can open it with OpenOffice. You can even go, I'm sure, to Google Spreadsheets and do File Open, look for the file and open it up. It's going to show you all the transactions in your account. So income coming in, what you make, and all the things you purchased and bought. What's nice about this method, quick and dirty, you just highlight all of the cells of the expenses and total it. And then you open up the credit card file and you highlight all expenses and you total it. So, for example, you might add everything up. The debit card's got $1,500 in spending. The credit card's got $2,000 in spending. That's $3,500. Your budget or your income might be $4,000 a month. And therefore you're like, great, I'm spending $3,500 and I make $4. So I've got an extra $500 a month. Do this, I would suggest, for a couple months. Doesn't take long. Download, do January, do February, do March, however you want to do it, 3, 6 months. Get an idea, because obviously some months are going to be higher, some months are going to be lower, and then you can say, am I spending more or am I spending less? Real simple. Decision tree. If you're spending less than your income, if you're spending less than the amount of money that's coming in, like in this example, spend $3,500, making $4,000, great. Now you know that on average you've got extra money. In this case it was $500. You can put it in the savings, you can use it to pay down debt. Talk about this in a second. If you're not, then forget about putting together a plan to pay down debt. Because if you're spending more than you make every month, or close to every month, then you're going deeper into debt. You're in this vicious death spiral of debt, and you're never going to get out of debt. So why even thinking about a plan to get out when first you've got to you've got to spend less? That's when you say, okay, now we've got to look at where's the money going and what can you do? And then you can go back, if you like, and create some categories and say, all right, for food, I can only do $800 a month and that sort of thing. I think it was Dave Ramsey or someone else that has a suggestion that, for example, let's say your food's $800 a month. If you have a problem tracking things, you don't want to, you go to the bank, you take $800 worth of cash out, you stick it in an envelope, you write on the envelope, food. There's your envelope. When you go, you start using that money at the grocery store. When the envelope's empty, you don't have any more food budget. That's a quick, easy, dirty way if you really need to work on your spending habits. All right. So now, once you've fixed your spending so that you now know and you can just practice this method, however you want to make sure you lower your spending, and then download everything for that month and make sure that you've now got your spend less than your income. You can dig into the line, but if you just, into each line item, into everything you spend, or you can simply just download the file, total it. It'll take you 5 to 10 minutes tops at the end of the month, and you're going to know if you're spending less than your income. Chances are, on your bank statement, you probably have direct deposit from whoever you work for, let's say, and it would probably hit your bank account twice. So it's really easy to figure out your income. You just, how much money hit my bank account there. Typically it's the same. Add it up or multiply it by 2, and the one line by 2, and then you'll know what your income is. All right. So now, once you've gotten that under control, using one of these 2 hacks, I think this one is the easiest, quickest one, because I did it with a friend. We sat down, and this was just blowing their mind. So he said, forget it. Let's just download, add up. And they had a spending problem. Now it was look in there. And they tried to justify all kinds of crazy stuff they shouldn't be spending on. I said, don't justify it to me. It's your money. You got to stop spending so you can have some extra money. Great. Now that you've got the extra money, let's say it's $500 a month because you've now fixed your spending problem, you can now implement a plan to get rid of debt, paying off credit cards, getting rid of the car loan, paying down your mortgage faster, whatever it may be. Because think about it. Even though this might be a pain, as an analogy, a football team doesn't just show up on Saturday to play a football game or on Sunday to play a football game. Of course not. What do they do before they show up for the game? Well, they figure out who they're playing. They figure out who's on that team. They figure out what their strengths are. For the week prior, maybe 2 weeks prior, they watch film and film and film, and they try to learn everything about that team. They prepare for 2 weeks. Let's say they prepare each player 80 hours per player, 40 hours per player before the game. Then what do? They show up and they play a 2 to 3 hour game. The game is this fast because they did all this prep work. So do the prep work. Get your spending under control. Figure out what you've got. Then the easy part. Then start using that with one of the various methods to get out of debt. Down below, and I'll just read some of these off, there will be links to all sorts of videos that I've put together. Snowball method, these are methods of getting out of debt. The avalanche method, comparing those two, debt consolidation, budget and expense reduction, which if you've got problems on your spending will help. Velocity credit card method, velocity banking, I explain it in more detail. Cashback cascade, one of my favorites, along with avalanche, I like that as well. How to maximize your cash backs, how to refinance your car to get money out, to move from a high interest rate to a low interest rate, balance transfer methods and hacks, 2 videos down there also go into, those are great detail of each one of those methods. And then there's 2 videos. One shows 4 methods really quickly. One shows 7 methods really quickly. And then I've got some balance transfer cards. But all those links are going to be in the description below. So once you've gotten your budgeting and you've gotten your spend under control and you know what you have to work with, then pick a plan and implement it. Don't just implement a plan before you know whether or not you're overspending. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope it'll motivate you. If you don't want to deal with all this budgeting stuff, just download. And if you don't know how to do that, I'm sure you've got a friend that can figure out how to download the transaction history for you. Or maybe it's a son or a daughter or somebody that's a little more technically savvy. Download it, put it into a spreadsheet, sum it up for you, and then determine how you're doing on your spend so you know what you have to use. Thank you. I hope this is helpful. Always appreciate a like if this has been helpful for you. And please do subscribe so you can see some of the future videos. Thanks, and I hope you're able to get onto your path of financial freedom.